All right, so today we got Georgia. You ready for Georgia? A little bit of Georgia?
Yeah, we really haven't been to Georgia.
You're kidding me, right?
Where have we been?
We've done an episode on Perry, Georgia. We've done at least
three
episodes on Savannah.
I got good shoes there. Oh, it's Savannah, of course. Was I even there? Was I even part of this?
What the hell is happening right now? Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we are going to do Helen, Georgia. I know a lot of you have heard about Helen, Georgia, and we might have a little bonus. Ringgold, Georgia, as well as the Paris Olympics versus Airbnbs.
That sounds like a great trio.
Today on Skiptown All-Stars. Let's do it.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hey listeners, ever wonder what it would be like to blow up your comfort zone at the tender age of 50? Well, we did just that. When our last kid went off to college, we hit the road in search of a new hometown. Now we bounce from city to city and bring you along for the ride. This is the Skiptown All-Stars podcast.
What's up, All-Stars? Welcome back to another episode of Skiptown. Pew, 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 pew. Back here in the Podcast Doctor Studios in Orlando. How you doing, Trixie?
I'm doing great. It's so nice to be back.
It is.
I don't really like that, like, run and gun shooting on the road. Like,
You don't like that whole thing that has made us famous?
Phil, can we just, like, pick up the studio and, like, bring it with us, including you, when we go to different places so we can get this feel all the time?
I think we can make that work.
Does the podcast doctor do house calls?
Of course. That's how I started my business.
All right.
Oh, that's right. You know what?
Yeah.
You did tell us that. But then that means we got to be on location. I want to be here all the time, but in the same place. Phil, I've got a business idea for you. You just need to franchise. And you have to go to all the cities that we're going to.
You know what I wanted to do, really? I wanted to buy an old ambulance and fit it out to make a studio, podcast doctor,
Yeah.
and have it all like wrapped and all that stuff. And
Yeah, totally.
I would drive it around.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
You get robbed all the time, though. They'd be like thinking there's all kinds of equipment in there.
You don't think I'd be packing?
I know you'd be packing.
People don't rob ambulances.
People rob podcast doctor
But
ambulances.
it's
They'd be like,
an
I know
ambulance.
they have good microphones in there.
How would they know
We
that?
can have our own
be
It
studio.
looks
wrapped.
like an ambulance.
It'd be wrapped, though. So it would say podcast doctor all over it.
You missed that part?
I did. I thought you were going to leave it as an ambulance.
Oh, no. I would wrap it. I would wrap it and make it look all cool and all that.
Oh.
How are things, Phil? How are you today?
Things are great. That is a future plan of mine, though. I still want to do that.
I think it's a great idea. Oh, my gosh. I see a franchise in the near future.
Cool.
All right. Well, the world famous podcast doctor, Phil Bird, with us today. Thank you for having us, as always, Phil. Let's get into Helen, Georgia. Helen. Let's talk about Helen. Let's talk about Helen, Georgia.
Phil, have you ever
Your
heard?
idea.
I know. Have you ever heard of Helen, Georgia?
No. Is it ultra south Georgia? Where is it geographically?
No,
though?
it's not. It's North Georgia. So it's like right on the border of Tennessee.
It's about 2 hours northeast of Atlanta. Helen was recommended to us as we were leaving Greer, South Carolina, episode 106. Bang, bang. Greenville, South Carolina is where Greer is. And Greenville, if you remember, ladies and gentlemen, was episode 81.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah. And we were on our way to Chattanooga, episode 108.
How many takes do we have to do to get that?
we did 3 takes to get that. Just so everybody's interested, anybody who's interested. So tell us, how did you come to find out about Helen, Georgia? Because I had never heard of it before.
Okay, Cousin Judy, episode...
I don't remember.
That's not a very good number.
30.
34, I think, or
32.
something like that. Anyway, Cousin Judy, who is our go-to for all things travel, said to me one time...
And she's really your cousin.
Yeah, she really is. Yeah. That we should go to Helen, Georgia, because it is this adorable German town. German settlers.
Bavarian was the term I believe she used, which sounds more bougie than just German.
Okay, maybe. But I do recall her saying that German settlers, because you know me by now, I ask a lot of questions. So I asked Cousin Judy, how did this town in Georgia become German? And she said, oh, German settlers. And I swear she told me it was during World War II. And I was like, okay, that sounds great. There's this little town in Georgia that looks exactly like a little German town. One day I'll go.
Beer, pretzels, Jaeger
Yes.
in the mountains. What more could you want?
Exactly. So we are leaving Greer, and cousin Doreen says to us, you have to go to Helen, Georgia. You're going to be going through Georgia. Heck, you have to go to Helen. I was like, oh, Helen, it's what Cousin Judy told us. It's a Bavarian town. And Doreen was like, yes, it's supposed to be very cool. Oh, we have to go. So then I made you add it to our adventures.
Yes, we took a roundabout way from Greer to our stop in Chattanooga.
Yeah,
and we decided we were going to spend the day in Helen. Yeah.
I was really excited. I could not wait to see like the cute little, Oktoberfest outfits that everybody's wearing.
Lederhosen.
Yeah. Okay. Beer steins. Like I had it in my head. I was like, this is going to be so cool.
Yeah. Like that place we went to in Vegas where the girls paddle you after you drink your shot of Jaeger.
Exactly.
Is that what you're wearing?
What?
Are you wearing a lederhosen?
It does sort of. Oh
my gosh.
I didn't even plan on that.
Holy moly.
That is crazy.
You look like a resident of Helen, Georgia.
I didn't even plan that. You know what? Subconsciously, I probably did. Like
you really didn't do that on purpose?
Oh, no, not at all. Oh, no, not at all. Oh, that's so weird.
Legit.
You're getting paddled.
Don't you threaten me with a good time. Phil, that was very astute of you to notice that. And the minute you said it, I was like, oh my gosh, I totally see it. That's what she's going for.
Absolutely not. It was just a cute little denim dress.
What are those things called? The puffy things that they have on their shoulders?
Know. But they do wear like the suspender things in the front too.
They do.
I don't know.
You are lacking the green suspenders and the
clogs.
The clogs, yes. I'm not. Clogs. I do not have the clogs on. But anyway, so we're approaching Helen, Georgia, and I'm super excited, right? Like this is going to be cool. And we immediately are greeted with a traffic jam, like a legit traffic jam. We're like, there's one lane in and one lane out.
There is, but you're jumping way ahead. So
really?
Let me just paint the picture for everybody.
No, I don't want you to.
It's gorgeous mountain country. It's gorgeous mountainsides we're driving through, right? We are following the Chattahoochee River.
We were.
It's pretty. We saw a little bit of whitewater rafting here and there. Not as much as we would eventually see in Tennessee, but there were things happening along the river. And there was a lot of trees. There were a lot of mountains, all this other stuff. And when Denise told me this was a Bavarian village, I guess in my head, what I had imagined was sort of, we are a little spoiled in our travels. We have been to places where the experiences are not just the experiences, but the actual buildings and the town itself is authentic. I'm going to use the word authentic here. It's very important that everybody hangs on that word authentic. We have been to old Quebec City, right? Yeah. And that looks like it's like out of the 1600s or 1700s, like small town France, right? Somewhere
Absolutely.
in France. We have been to Santa Fe, New Mexico, adobes everywhere. Very, very authentic, right?
Please.
We have been to, even in more modern times, we have been to Essex, Connecticut, a bastion of colonial revolutionary love, right?
Can I have a disclaimer?
Colonial houses. And so we're driving through the mountainside and I'm like, oh my gosh, like we are coming up on New Heidelberg or somewhere.
Like the Swiss Alps. I'm thinking Swiss Alps, right? Like, like those beautiful chateaus because they have those in Germany too. So I'm thinking the same thing.
Yeah. As was I.
Yeah, none of that.
So,
No.
Now proceed with the traffic jam.
Yeah, just a long traffic jam, like 40 minutes to get from one end of this little town of Helen, Georgia to the other. And everything was fake. There was
this is going to be a 10-minute podcast, the way she's like spilling these details right now.
There I had to Wikipedia while I was sitting in the traffic because there were no chateaus. There was no girls in dresses. There were no people walking around in clogs. It was, I don't even know. It was like tank tops, cutoff jeans, and Pizza Huts everywhere. In
fairness, it was designed to look like a Bavarian village, right?
So yeah.
But you mentioned Pizza Hut, so we might as well just say it. Imagine if you would, a few miles, it's probably a 2 or 3 mile strip, I'm guessing. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less, whatever. A strip of plywood Bavarian facades everywhere. Plywood Pizza Hut, Bavarian style.
So just like picture in your head what like an old European town would look like. They faked that and called it Helen.
Only if it was made by a bunch of guys in like Youngstown, Ohio.
So it was like what Busch Gardens does.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
It's this, if you've been to Florida and you've been to Busch Gardens or Epcot Center, it was like Epcot. Everything was fake. And then like you go behind like one of the buildings in Epcot and like there's just a cement building or, you know, people smoking cigarettes in the back, just dressed in like a white t-shirt and khakis. Like there's nothing. It was, I could not figure out what happened to the settlers from World War II who came here and built this beautiful town. And then I found out there was no such thing. So I Wikipedia'd it and then I shared it with you and go ahead. You tortured me with it the whole time. So go ahead.
So it turns out it was not originally a Bavarian village. It was a village up in the mountains. It was a logging village. And it was created so that, you know, obviously there was some forestry stuff going on up there and sawmills and all that good stuff and construction. It now is only, it was originally incorporated in 1913. In 1913, though, it was not Bavarian in any way, shape, or form. No. It was not until 1968 when this gentleman named John Colick and some other businessmen friends of his decided that they needed a plan. They concocted a plan to convert this decaying now logging town, because there are no more sawmills anymore. I mean, you know, everything was like being mass produced somewhere else. This town was decaying. So they decided they were going to convert it into a Bavarian village. Now, I'm sure there are people listening to this that will say, oh, this hotel or that restaurant or this or that was actually real. It was designed in a Bavarian style and it's an authentic edifice. It's a building that was built specifically according to Bavarian standards. But in 2024, year of our Lord, I'm here to tell you, there's more plywood in that town than there is in all 6 Home Depots in your area. Like there is it, and it's painted and it looks, you mentioned Busch Gardens, Phil. To me, it reminded me a lot of iDrive in terms of the corniness. And I'm a fan of corny. Like I can get down with the corny. Denise's Renaissance Fair in Colorado, corny.
Oh no.
But I knew it was going to be corny going in.
That Renaissance Fair was really good. First of all, every single person was dressed up in head to toe in that Renaissance era. They all had the beer. They all had the turkey. Like, no, you are not going to talk badly about that Renaissance Fair.
I am. Actually. You're right. I'm not going to talk about it. The difference is I know very well there was no Renaissance ever held in the hills of Colorado. Okay. So I knew going into it, there was no Renaissance. Like this is not a real Renaissance village, right? I knew that. You failed to notice or understand. You failed to do the research on Helen, Georgia.
I did.
To know that it is not a real Bavarian village.
When Cousin Judy said settlers came she must have made that up because that.
We're gonna have to roll the tape because now I want to listen to see if Cousin Judy actually said that, or is that just
she told me in private. Oh. She told me in private. We don't have it recorded.
Oh, how convenient. Okay.
But there is no. I'm like, where did that even come from? So
okay. So anyway, I've painted the picture. If you've ever had Santa's Village in your hometown, right? You know the guys of the community and the ladies, like the guys go out there and they erect all these plywood facades, and then the ladies come and they help everybody, all the families come and help decorate it. That like 4 miles of that or whatever, however many miles it is, that's what Helen, Georgia is.
I just felt like they should have faked it a lot more. Like, okay, but here's what's crazy. Phil.
They should have faked it so much that it looked authentic.
Yes.
Yeah, I think,
Here's what's crazy. The place is packed. You can't move. It is shoulder to shoulder. So I'm in the car. The car isn't moving. People are on the sidewalk. And this is like, it was Sunday. So it was a weekend. People are shoulder to shoulder on the sidewalk. So I'm looking up on the phone. What is the draw here? Like, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's literally in the Appalachian Mountains. What is the draw? And I found out that it is the place to go to if you live in Atlanta. It is like their getaway. So whatever the getaway would be in your town, this is Atlanta's getaway. So
wait, hold on. You need to pronounce it. Is it a getaway or the getaway?
It was a lot of white people.
There was a lot of white
So
people.
it was an
It was a
escape.
getaway.
It was an escape.
Okay, because those are two different words.
There were
if you
black
look them
folks
up,
there. It wasn't just white people. There were actually folks of all stripes there.
those are two different meanings.
That is true.
So
That is true.
Yeah, it was an escape.
Okay.
It was an escape.
It
And,
was an escape.
and I do believe that the articles I read did say escape. They used the words escape.
Okay, I refuse to believe that Helen, Georgia is the destination for Atlantans.
Okay, well, first of all, there were so many people there that all I kept thinking is, you are leaving to get away from your neighbors, and you're going to see them when you're here. Like, they're
Yeah, you're going to see them right on the river because the Chattahoochee River there, they actually have tubing where you can float the river. And there were so many people in the river, it was just like bumper cars.
Nobody
like,
was
it was just
floating.
a mass of, it was like, turnpike traffic just moving down the river slowly.
oh, it was like a Chinese swimming pool.
Pretty much. It was so packed. So packed.
Yes, it's exactly what it was. I, at one point, looked over because we finally were able to park and walk, walk around. And at one point, I looked over, like where the river was, and the tubes weren't even moving. Like, people are sitting in the tubes, ha ha ha, hee hee hee, and they're not even moving. I'm like, is this really an escape? Is this really a
The
getaway?
traffic jam was moving faster than the river traffic. Yeah.
Yeah, that is probably true.
Yeah.
So, but then, okay, so we're there, and I'm insisting upon an authentic experience because we're not leaving
not
until
going
I
out like
get
that.
one. We're not leaving until I
God.
get one. So, I make you go to that German restaurant. So there's a couple German restaurants.
Well, okay. So yeah, there are a bunch. Let's name them by name. The ones that are recommended on almost every travel blog that we'll get into this in a second, but a lot of travel blogs love Helen, Georgia. Okay. So
Who are these people?
So I'm just going to tee it up that you and I are perhaps in the minority on our takes on Helen, Georgia. Okay. So Paul's Steakhouse, but obviously we did not feel like steakhouse for lunch, especially when we were in an alleged Bavarian Village. Okay. And then there's another one called Bosnies, something like that. Hang on. And there's another one called Bodensies. That's authentic German cuisine. But I think that was like right in the mix. Like that was in the throng of where all the people were.
It was.
So we decided, whatever. Then we talked about going to Hofer's Germantown Deli and bakery. It was a bakery.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, maybe we'll get a sandwich there. And then, we can
Right.
buy some baked goods or whatever, take them to Chattanooga with us.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Plus, it was on the edge. So we're driving through and we're walking through the whole downtown area.
Yeah.
And we wanted to go somewhere that was a little bit out of the way. And I remember this is why we chose this restaurant.
Okay, that, and there were several reasons. It was authentic. We realized at that point,
Sorry.
I'm using
I'm
air
so
quotes when I
sorry.
say that.
Go ahead.
It was authentic. It was actually at the end of the strip. Like the town was
Yeah.
almost over at that point. We figured, okay, well, we're not going to drive through the traffic jam back the other way. So
No.
we're just going to park here. We're going to eat here at this authentic place, and then we're going to walk the town, which is what we did. But we actually ended up walking the town first. And so we started walking around, and, there were plenty of places.
It's all
where
just like, it's just like touristy little shops. I mean, that's literally all it is. So my whole take on it is that you go there really to go whitewater tubing, or not even rafting. You just go, what do you call it? Tubing. You just go tubing.
Yeah.
And then, you stay at like the Econo Lodge because that was there, but it was all Bavarianed out. Mm-hmm. So, it didn't look like an Econo Lodge, but it did.
Would it have a fern on the side? On the sign or something? Is that what made it German?
No, it has those beams. Like it has like it had like the fake plaster with the beams. Everything looks like those old like German mountain houses or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even know the proper term for that architecture, but anyway, moving on. So we walked around town. We got the feel. We decided we're going to hold off on the bakery, and we were going to go to Hofbrau House. Mm-hmm. Hofbrau House. So that's where we went. And it was crowded. That was a good sign.
Yeah, and it was exactly as described. So I'm looking it up. I'm trying to find some cool places, and it says it sits on the river. It overlooks the river. It's in like the woods, and all of that is true. But it was filthy.
It was filthy.
Disgusting.
We walked up to the bar, and
My arm stuck to it.
the clean silverware was sitting in seepage from
Wait.
somebody's drinks.
Oh,
It was like there was
place was
fresh
nasty.
rolled silverware sitting there, and there was schmutz like leaking into it. It was disgusting. And the bartender, to her credit, was slammed. Like it was busy, and a lot of people just come there to get drinks, and then the place was busy but not so busy. So the wait was max 20 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that. And so nobody's ever at the bar long enough for her to like sort of establish a rhythm. I don't know if it was a shift change, whatever. All I can tell you is we walked up to this bar. There were so many dirty plates and glasses. There were like, it was just devastated everywhere. I promise you, when I was a kid, there were water fountains that I licked that were cleaner than this bar and this place, this section of the restaurant.
I'm like, what do we do? I remember looking at you and I was like, what do we do? And you're like, I don't know. Because we both looked back at like that long line of cars and it's like, we're at the end of the strip now. So we have to huff it. Like,
Yeah, we weren't going to walk back into town. We just got done walking
like,
through
all
town.
right, I'm going to take my chance and get hepatitis B.
So what did we do? Yeah. So instead of waiting for our table, we decided we're just going to sit and eat at this dirty bar. She'll clean it off for us. It'll be totally
With
fine.
a dirty rag. With a dirty rag. She handed me a
pulled
dirty
out
rag.
that rag. Oh my gosh. That rag
I
had
was just
malaria, Hep C. Oh my gosh.
did you get a tetanus shot after that?
I had a tetanus shot, so I was fine. He was questionable. I felt bad for him.
I don't even know when my last tetanus
Yeah,
shot
it was long.
was.
Yeah, you.
It's over 10 years.
I have a bit of a hot take when it comes to German cuisine.
Oh,
Let's
what is
hear it.
I think German cuisine is ranked probably the least favorite out of all the world cuisines.
I think you're probably right.
I don't disagree. I think a lot of people do not seek out German food.
No, because one, they can't pronounce it, and two, it's just dark and depressing.
It is. It's usually
Sausage.
stirred up with despair and angst. And
I was
like,
actually going for what real ingredients are.
well. Let's think about what's in it. Mostly, it's vinegar, it's cabbage,
Nothing has color either.
You're right.
it's pork, but not just pork, but it's like all the entrails of the pig. You know what I mean? Like
Sausage.
wrapped up in this. It's, let's just face it. I mean, no wonder they were so
Potatoes.
angry for so many centuries, right? Their food sucks. So that said, I do like a little bit of sauerkraut, as we've talked about in previous episodes. So to bring it full circle.
I just kept thinking.
I know we're dragging it. I have to say this though, for the people listening, like I know we're dragging Helen right now. Like we're totally dragging them. Our opinion, you may not want to listen to our opinion because we are deep in the minority, like millions. Okay, I'm just going to read you a stat. I just want to keep people in so that we can continue doing what we're doing.
You do you.
Clearly, whatever they've done with the renovations and the recreation of Helen into a Bavarian town has worked because 1.5 to 2 million people visit it every single year.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I know.
And here's the thing that you would think that the guy who started this town, was German or his friends were German or there was some ancestry of German. They just decided to do German.
I read a story somewhere where he actually spent time when he was in the war in a Bavarian village.
That was it. So he came back and was like, oh, that village was great. Let's copy it. There's no ancestry.
I don't find fault in that. It's just,
It's ridiculous.
it's
I'll go to Busch Gardens.
I'm going through these photos, and I wish I had my laptop with me because I'd play a little game with you. Is it Busch Gardens or is it Helen, Georgia?
Oh,
but you see what we're talking about,
Yeah.
right?
I wouldn't know. I bet you I wouldn't know.
Oh my gosh!
So anyway, I mean, he totally copied it. And you know what? That town feeds $100 million every single year into the economy of White County, where it is in Georgia.
Good for them.
Yeah.
I won't be back.
Okay, so let's get back to Hofbrauhaus.
Okay.
So we ordered our food. There was some obnoxious guy over my shoulder. And I really did think, like, for a minute there, I was like, wow, a younger me might have turned around and told him to shut up. He was so insistent on getting his drinks.
Yeah.
And it just made an already bad experience even worse.
I could see James' vein popping on the side of his face. And when he does that, it's usually not a good sign. So I remember I was like, let him just get his drinks. And you were like, how loud is he going to be? How many times is he going to? He literally
kept leaning
leaned
over my shoulder to yell at the bartender who was slammed and couldn't even wipe down the bar for the other. Finally, she wiped down the bar for us. And then she couldn't wipe down the bar at the other end because this guy was just running her.
I just knew if you had words with him, that was going to slow down my meal.
Yeah.
I just did not want that to happen.
Yeah. And there's no point in, at 50 plus years old getting into, fisticuffs in the middle of a fake German restaurant in the middle of Georgia.
Thank you for
no
making
problem.
that wise decision not to move forward with that.
I know. I think about these things once in a while. Anyway, so we got our meals.
Yeah.
They were super expensive and very mediocre at best. And I have to give them mediocre at least because I did eat my food. Even though I knew as I was like eating off my fork, I was like, this fork has not been washed.
Oh,
I know
for sure.
this fork has not been washed.
Yeah.
So, but white people, Phil, they do stuff like this.
All the time.
James was so mad and disappointed that he wouldn't even let me go to the bakery. I was like, can we go to the bakery? Like, I've read about this. If anything, this bakery is supposed to be really good. He's like, oh no, get in the car. We're
German
leaving.
pastries, maybe. Those.
Yeah, schnitzel's
Yeah.
good. It's not schnitzel.
Chocolate.
Strudel.
Schnitzel, that's like hammered.
That's like a hot dog.
That's
Yeah,
like
that's
hammered
like
beef.
Yeah, and
Or
breaded. It's breaded.
Hammered pork.
Chicken and pork.
Yeah.
That's what I had.
Strudel.
It's strudel.
Strudel. We did not get
that.
the strudel. No, I was
He
like,
wouldn't let-
I'm like, we'll buy you some peaches on the road somewhere or something. You're like, we're not doing very good. I'm not walking back into this town. Get me out of here. All I could think at that point was getting to Chattanooga, episode 108. And so that was it. We left. I'm really sorry to say you didn't get your baked goods that day.
No, I did not.
I have to tell you something though. This is going to shock you. I already dropped all the financials of Helen on you.
Yeah.
Hofbrauhaus. What do you think it rates on Google?
Oh, well, you said that this place is a hot spot, the whole Helen, Georgia. So there's no question about it. It's like a 4.5 on Google or Yelp or whatever.
It was I forget if Google does a 5-star rating or
They
whatever.
do.
It's a 5-star. Okay. So over 4,000 reviews, right? Or about 4,000 reviews. It's a 4.85. People love this place. They love it.
Okay, we're in the minority for sure.
We are.
Yeah. So don't take our advice.
I want to say
Go.
we caught
Have
him
a
on the
great
bad
time.
day. I do want to say we caught him on a bad day, but some of that dirt looked like old.
All right. So look, if you're going to go to Helen, you got to visit Busch Gardens then and just tell me which one.
That's right. Is it Busch Gardens or is it Helen, Georgia? I love it. So anyway, one thing though that we do have to jump into real quick, I just feel like we have to mention this because we didn't talk about this in the Chattanooga episode. And a lot of people don't know this, but because Chattanooga is actually on the border of Tennessee and Georgia, you can actually find property on the other side of the Georgia border.
Yeah.
Right? For like $100,000 to $200,000 less for an average house. And
Then Tennessee.
yeah, exactly. Then, still, so we found a town where I wanted to look at houses. It was called Ringgold, Georgia. 25 minutes from downtown Chattanooga, right? And so we went. We had a quick, little journey there.
Yeah.
And the houses we didn't think had as much character as the ones, I should say the neighborhoods or the properties didn't have as much. It was a little more, it was weird. It was kind of like farm country
It was.
in the middle of the mountains.
It was very weird. Yeah.
So I don't know if it was on a plateau or if it was on the lip leading up to the Appalachians or whatever on that side.
Because you're driving out of this beautiful scenery,
Woods,
wood,
hills,
basically, yeah,
mountains.
and then it's flat, and there are farmlands for all as far as you can see it. It was the strangest thing. It was like, oh, mountains ended. Here we go, farm country.
Yeah, but they did have a nice little downtown.
They did. Ringgold was super, super cute.
It was, and they were having a car show the night we were there.
Yep.
Little Americana, got to go by, see some Thunderbirds, some Camaros, Mustangs, Impalas.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a small town. You could tell everyone knew everyone. I mean, it was like the townies were gathered for the car show, and it was really quaint. And then they had like an outdoor music venue at the same time. So like on the other side of the street, basically like 2 streets over, they had like a band shell, and there was a country music band playing. It was like kind of set like you would thought you walked onto a movie set. It was set up so charmingly.
Yeah, and they had your favorite ice cream store.
Oh, okay. So this is like crazy weird. So there's an ice cream store in Ringgold. It's like the only ice cream store on this little strip, right? I don't know what it was called, like soft cream or something like
Joey's.
that. No,
Joey's
no,
ice cream?
It wasn't. The outside was so cool. They had a picture of Dolly Parton painted on the side of the building.
Oh,
It was just,
I forgot about that.
It was really, really cool. Inside was very churchy. They had crosses everywhere and signs about Jesus and, get your chocolate ice cream and go to church on Sunday. And I was like, wow, like, okay, private business, they can do whatever they want. You
gotta do what you want.
They had a line out the door, legitimate line out the door. So I wanted to use the bathroom. So I was like, I'm going to use the bathroom. I'm probably going to grab an ice cream cone. I'm sure the ice cream here is like phenomenal, like organic, like, hand churned.
Organic. Spoken like a West Coast lady.
There's a line out the door. Okay. There's a Dolly Parton painting on the side of this building.
You thought it was like homemade ice cream.
There's no question there are like millennials in there churning that by hand, right?
Right.
No, the ice cream was, I never even knew Hershey's brand, they make ice cream. I had no idea. So,
really?
Yeah, so it's just like a basic Hershey's.
Where did you see this?
Oh, it was all over. So
On
when
a case?
when I walked inside, when I walked inside, it was like the Hershey's label brand was everywhere. And I was like, wow, like basic ice cream.
Where'd you go to, a Brewster's?
No. Okay. It was like a privately owned ice cream store.
Well, so that's the real part of the story.
Okay.
The real part of the story is she can't actually find any footprint of it digitally, like online.
It's really weird. So it's a privately owned ice cream store, right? We leave, and I'm just impressed by the fact that like they're serving basic ice cream, and there's a line out the door, right? Because like we've been all over the country, and like the bougie hand churned like lavender and basil ice cream for $5 a cone. That's like all the rage. And so I'm leaving thinking like, they really have something here, right? Like they don't mind preaching the Bible while they're serving their ice cream cones. Mm-hmm. People don't care.
Small town America.
Yeah, people don't care. They're still going to buy it. And they've got a really great business model. They're the only ones in town, right? Like that's like, it's kind of crazy. So I think to myself, all right, I'm going to call them up because I want to get some information. Like how much are their prices? How affordable are they? All of that. You can't find them. There's no phone number. They have no website. They're like, here's what they have. When you go to click on website on their Google page, it sends you to a Facebook page, which always makes me laugh because I think as a business owner, that's the best you got. Like you own a business and you're taking me to a Facebook page. Like I immediately don't go and eat there because I think you haven't spent any money.
A domain name costs like $6 a year, right?
And so it's like you can't just put up a basic like Squarespace website. Like I just think it's weird. So for me, when I see that, I'm like, I'm not going to your business. But they have nothing. They don't
need your input.
They actually
do not.
They got a
line out the door.
They have a line out the door.
So here's this is just an episode where we're wrong about everything.
Legit. Like you think when you're owning a business, you have to have exposure, right? Like that's your whole thing. I need to have a TikTok. I need to have Instagram. I need to have a website. I need to do this. I need to they have no exposure. And there's a line out the door.
You just need ice cream.
It made me rethink everything about owning a business.
Ice cream makes the world go round. Even Hershey's.
Basic ice cream, best location.
They
no
definitely
exposure.
had the best. Like they're
no
right
exposure.
On Main Street, right? Whatever the Main Street is downtown. I don't even know if it's called Main Street. I forget.
I literally want to try their business model next time I open up a business.
Yeah, just say, here we are. Come find us. And if you have ice cream, they will find you. It's amazing.
That is gonna be my logo for my next business. Come find me.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought it was a cool little downtown though. If you are looking to save somewhere between 50 to 150K, but you want the access to Chattanooga, highly recommend looking at property in Ringgold, Georgia, or that area. Several other small towns in that area.
And you can get lots of property with the house, not just like, like a house in a neighborhood. You can get property. If
I were like Jimmy James, still living in Ohio all these years, and I wanted to retire and I saw a place like Ringgold, I would say to myself, I could do this.
Okay, here's another thing that's weird that I'm going to bring up. In that little town, it was just like 4 blocks. They had an extremely expensive clothing store. That always throws me for a loop.
Georgians like to do that. We had the same thing in Perry, Georgia. They just threw a bunch of expensive stores in the middle of like a little hometown podunk nowhere.
You have like, my guess is $1.50 ice cream cones and then $700 boots.
Lady needs shoes.
Oh, that's a front.
That is a front.
Phil, which one? The ice cream place or the shoe store?
The shoe store is a front.
I was blown away. Like I was just looking at the mannequins in the window because at that point, because it was later in the afternoon, it had already closed. I could see the price tags on like the blouses and the pants. it was unbelievable. I'm like, how is this store here? How is this store here? This is just a average downtown area, and they have shirts for like $200, girls' shirts for $200. Like, that was weird.
They're saving all that money on their house, so I guess they can afford those kind of boots.
Check out Ringgold, because there's something going on back there.
There definitely is. Okay, one last thing I want to pivot to before we wrap this up, and that is the Paris Olympics have recently ended.
Yes.
I ended up watching way more of the Olympics. When Ellie, who is staying with us this summer, by the way, Ellie asked me, are you interested in the Olympics? And I said, nah, not really. Maybe women's soccer, maybe a couple other events. The track and field, I'm always down for. Gymnastics, Simone Biles, of course, all those.
Sounds like you like a lot of that.
Yeah, well,
No,
I mean,
you just said you only killed. Now you just
there's
listed all
so
of them.
many events though, and I was like, and like 3 years ago, it wasn't really. I don't know. I didn't follow too much of it, so I said no, and then I ended up watching so much of it. So then I became curious. I was wondering like how many Americans or tourists basically from all over the world actually went to Paris for the Olympics, right? So I have some news, and this is a little segment I'm calling Paris Olympics versus Airbnb hosts.
Oh,
ready?
bring it. Mm-hmm.
Here's a little report I wrote up. In early 2024, Parisian Airbnb hosts were salivating at the prospect of making oodles of euros while visitors from afar filled their flats and apartments in anticipation of seeing Paris and their favorite Olympians compete. How did they do? As of early July, most of their dreams were not a reality. Much of the reason for this is their fellow French citizens had the same idea. What would normally be an Airbnb inventory of 65,000 homes was now a bursting supply of over 145,000.
Oh my gosh.
Boom. Almost 3 times as much. Turns out many of those living in Paris also wanted to cash in on renting their apartments or homes and taking that money with them on a 2-week holiday away from the crowds of Paris, potential for terrorisms, petty crime, and closed down routes to go to work, everything that comes basically with a major event in a major city, right? So some Parisians reported originally listing their flats at 1,000 euros, then 500.
Which is roughly like $1,300 in American dollars.
Yeah, per night.
Oh, per night. I thought you meant for the week.
Per night part
oh,
out?
you did, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Did you think it was per week? Because I thought it was for the week.
Per night. No, they were going for the big gouge. I don't know. I think gouge is actually a French word.
Oh, okay. Well, they nailed
the
it.
gouge. Anyway, then they dropped them to 500 when that wasn't working out. And then by July, 350, then 250. And one lady finally said she lowered hers to 160 per night. And an American took the bait and rented it for a month. Yeah. The problem was for this host that the 160 euros per night rate was really only about 30 euros above what she would normally get for renting the house out in the summer, had not that much impact from the Olympics, right? And so she was obviously disappointed. It may have improved for the hosts as the games approached. We're still waiting for some of that data. But another inflection point that was working against them was the sheer amount of people waiting to purchase tickets for the Olympics because they were waiting for the ticket prices to go down for the actual events themselves. So it seems like many visitors were waiting for a dip in ticket prices and waiting to double Dutch themselves into the competition. So therefore, they didn't want to plan a vacation and book a house or book a flat or an apartment. So Airbnb says that the 2024 games were still on track to become the biggest event in Airbnb's history.
Oh, they're lying.
Probably. But Parisians would argue that even with 15 million tourists pouring into the city for the games, over 13 million of them were French and staying with family or friends. So with the supply outmeasuring demand and tourists holding out for better ticket prices, that luxurious holiday Parisians were counting on was probably downgraded to simply a getaway for most of them. Like what I did there.
I said it. I love it.
Wow, a lot of disappointed Parisians.
How about that?
Holy cow. So do you think like that one woman that had to lower her rate, that probably happened across the board? I mean,
I would suspect so, yeah. There was way more supply than there was demand for Airbnbs.
Why do I love hearing that? I'm so evil.
I know.
I
So
love hearing that.
I felt it was an important story to talk about because in a very
Because you just try to gouge everyone when they're just trying to have fun. So it's like they kind of had to eat it.
yeah, but in a few episodes, we are actually going to have on an Airbnb expert.
We are.
And listener and fan of the show, Stacy. So
Yeah.
it'll be sort of interesting to see what the real deal is. Not so much with Paris, and I know that's sort of a one-off.
This like pains Stacy to hear this story. If she's listening right now, she's like, oh, because she's an Airbnb owner of several.
But I think Stacy's doing all right. So I'm eager to hear her weigh in on topics like this and others, everything related to rentals and Airbnbs in the near future. So that's it.
I feel like the people won in this story. Airbnb did not win. The people won.
Airbnb did not win. Parisians did not win.
No, Parisians. But
Parisian hosts.
you
did
can't.
not
You
win.
know what though? You can't be a winner when you're charging $1,200 for a place that's only really $160 or $130.
Yeah.
So go jump off a building.
Yeah. So take that, France. Plus, we have more medals than anybody except China. We had as many gold medals as China.
Yeah, 40.
Yeah.
40 apiece.
Did you watch the Olympics?
All of it.
You did. What was your favorite sport?
The breakdancing.
No, you didn't. No,
I watched that live.
for comedy.
I watched it. No, I like that.
But they weren't any good.
The Australian woman was not good, but everybody else was good.
Do you think they were all good?
Yeah.
Oh, there was so much criticism.
I watched
about
the
all
men's
of them.
quarterfinals for about 10, 15 minutes.
It wasn't hood breakdancing.
No.
It was like 80s breakdancing.
Okay,
Yeah.
somebody got on Facebook
was
and was
good.
complaining about it. Somebody we know and was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, these aren't like the breakdancers in Venice, California." I'm like, "Okay, well, okay,
Yeah,
nobody
no.
is." You know what I mean?
No, but it was good. Obviously, the men's basketball, that was really cool.
Men's basketball was good.
Did you
Women's
watch
soccer?
Yeah, did you watch like Simone Biles like get all of her gold?
We watched it live. Yeah, we were watching it live. Yeah,
Yeah.
we watched it together live.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, those girls did an amazing
It
job.
was.
So many American athletes did. People you didn't expect. The shot put guy, like, oh my gosh, he threw that. He threw a 16-pound shot. Like, we did the math. I think it was like 160 feet or something like that.
The French guy that got disqualified because of his dong.
Yeah. Yeah.
He may look. My one friend said he may have not won the medal, but he won the Olympics.
Yep.
Okay, well, I think that's going to wrap up this episode. I'm eager to hear from our listeners who have been to Helen or who want to go to Helen. Feel free. You can tell us we're insane.
Bring it. Bring it.
Yeah.
Empty nest, full tank.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.